In this edition of Southern Newsweek, an old reservoir is about to be upgraded. We take a look at the reasons, the plan and the cost. We meet the local woman who's part of a large group calling for action that could protect the city's population. And another call goes out for the quality of rental accommodation to be improved. We'll find out from whom and why. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. The city's water supply is being made more secure through an upgrade of the historic Ross Creek Reservoir. Already the City Council spent close to $1 million on a wider water security project. And with the latest plan, that amount is set to more than double.
Shoring up the local water supply. The City Council's about to start reinforcing the Ross Creek Reservoir Dam, which has been out of commission for about 20 years.
It's old, it's built in 1867 and it's in need of refurbishment. And the reason we're refurbishing it rather than decommissioning the structure is that it provides a backup water supply for Dunedin, and also it's a historic structure. It's a great amenity value for the community, so it's something that we want to retain in Dunedin.
Contractors are preparing to drill test holes in the dam so the right reinforcing can be designed. Once the dam is structurally sound, the reservoir will be filled to its intended capacity. The work's expected to cost more than $2 million.
The construction will probably take 9 to 12 months, so it's really a matter of dealing with the successful contractor and working out whether we want to split that programme over 2 construction seasons or start afresh at the end of 2016.
Already about $1 million has been spent on a pumping station between 2 water treatment plants. More infrastructure has to be put in, connecting the Ross Creek Reservoir to the system as an emergency supply. From next week, some of the popular tracks around the dam will be closed for testing.
Should be able to keep access open for recreational users throughout. There'll just be some limits on that.
The Ross Creek Dam is the oldest large earth dam in the country and has Category 1 heritage status. It could help to ensure residents have water if the main supply is cut off by an earthquake or another emergency. Rosie Mannins, 39, Dunedin News.
Large-scale work to minimise the risk of flooding is entering the last stage. The Otago Regional Council is opening tenders for the second phase of the Water of Leith flood protection and drainage scheme, but the multi-million-dollar project hasn't been without some setbacks.
Jumping on the campus construction bandwagon, Otago Regional Council staff are preparing to undertake the second stage of the Leith flood protection scheme. The work's being synchronised with several University of Otago projects currently underway.
There's a piece of widening of the Leith channel downstream of Dundas Street Bridge to reduce the flood hazard and the breakout at that location, as well as improving public access into the Water of Leith channel.
A low-level walkway outside the University Registry is also a priority for this second stage of work. So far, the multi-million-dollar project is on track to be fully complete by 2018. That's despite the challenges that arose during the June flood.
We were very pleased at how the Leith flood protection scheme performed during that flood. As expected, there was some minor localised damage, but generally it achieved its purpose, which was to reduce the flood hazard for the Dunedin CBD.
This stage of flood protection is expected to take a big chunk of the $3.6 million in the project budget for this financial year. Staff are taking steps to ensure the money is spent wisely.
We're expecting it to be in excess of $1 million, but that will depend on how a contractor wishes to price it. We've spent some time to reduce the scale of the works and the complexity, and we've hoped to have made some cost savings in that regard.
The tender is expected to be awarded by the end of the year if quotes are favourable. Council staff are anticipating this stage of the project to be complete in March. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
A local lecturer is helping to lead a nationwide campaign for law reform. She's among tens of thousands of health professionals that are encouraging the government to take bold action on climate change. They say residents will be at risk if nothing's done.
Campaigning for a healthier future. Thousands of doctors, nurses and academics from 16 different organisations are collectively tackling climate change. They're calling on the government to lead the way internationally. And they say it's not just the planet that will benefit.
Climate change itself is a threat, but also we have this great opportunity if we put health and fairness at the centre of climate policy and climate action in New Zealand, that we could have some really exciting gains for health and for fairness in New Zealand.
The call to action preempts the United Nations global climate negotiations in December. Climate and Health Council members say well-planned action to reduce carbon emissions will improve health and well-being locally and overseas. And they say the best way forward is for the government to commit to making New Zealand carbon zero by 2050.
These targets are fully achievable. The sticking point now is the political will to do it, as well as the influence that large multinational fossil fuel companies have on national policies.
Climate change is predicted to transform the world forever, with higher sea levels, warmer days and more extreme weather. The Council says that will have a negative effect on people's health and livelihood, but changes at the community level can help.
Moving people out of their cars and into public transport and walking and cycling, we know that will be fantastic for people's health as well as for the climate.
Council members are planning to continue lobbying the government to take more action. They are hoping their pleas will see New Zealand emerge as a leader during this year's UN Climate Conference. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
Public opinion is being sought for Port Otago's harbour dredging project. The company wants to extend its consent to dump excess material around the harbour, and that's generating a range of responses from residents.
Digging underneath the surface. Port Otago's dredging the harbour, but its consent to dispose of excess material will soon expire. And before the company reapplies for consent, it's consulting the local community.
It's a chance for people to come and learn a little bit more about what's going on and guide us if we're looking in the wrong places and doing the wrong kind of work.
Port Otago's digging out parts of the harbour channel to allow for bigger ships. The dredged material is being dumped in 3 inshore spots at Hayward Point, Spit Beach and Shelley Beach. Local residents are interested in how the disposal project is affecting the area.
Our Moana community is really interested about their beach, both on the Big Beach side and the Shelley Beach side. And of course the natural environment like penguins and those kind of elements, it's all part of that inshore environment where we've historically disposed of dredging material.
The first public session proved popular, with dozens of Moana and Port Chalmers residents showing an interest. Port staff have been highlighting the science behind the project to give locals an insight into what's happening below the surface.
A lot of the time people just want to know more information about how what the port company is doing is going to affect them, their lives and what's important to them. So a lot of people had questions answered that they just didn't know about, which is great, and that's really a lot of the purpose of doing these exercises.
Another information session is being held tonight in Dunedin. Public consultation isn't necessary, but staff believe it's important to keep locals in the loop on what's a multi-million-dollar project. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
The Child Poverty Action Group is calling for local housing to be improved. Members have just launched a nationwide campaign to raise awareness around housing quality, and they're targeting some locally specific issues.
A nationwide issue on a local scale. The Dunedin branch of the Child Poverty Action Groups held a meeting to highlight the failures in New Zealand's housing system that extend to Dunedin.
It's just about raising awareness with people about what the issue is to do with housing, why is housing a problem, who is it a problem for, and what is the relationship between housing and poverty for children.
It's part of a campaign to create more conversation about the links between homes, health and poverty. Group members say Dunedin has colder temperatures and poorer housing than other cities around the country. It's believed that better housing will improve the health of the local population.
A lot of people were interested particularly in the local issues, because with housing there is the big, broad sort of national issues, but then there are also some issues quite specific to Dunedin because of the climate we live in.
Many issues lie with rental properties, and the group says action needs to be taken by the government. Members are supporting the plan to set up a warrant of fitness for houses. They're also advocating for more affordable heating and a review of the government's accommodation supplement.
Housing is one way that poverty translates into poor outcomes. So in other words, if you're poor in terms of your income but you still have access to good quality housing and enough fuel, you're unlikely to experience some of the really negative effects to do with health and education.
Local group members say there's no simple solution, but better housing will help to diminish the effect poverty has on families. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, the beautification work of a well-known man is recognised with a memorial, and artworks return to the walls at Dunedin Hospital. Welcome back. A memorial to a local philanthropist has just been unveiled. The tribute recognises the life's work of a late Rotarian who has helped beautify the city with daffodils. But his work with flowers isn't all he's known for.
Sitting among the daffodils. These people are gathered to honour a man whose charity work impacted a whole city. Les Cleveland was part of the Rotary Club of Dunedin and his humanitarian work was widespread.
People don't realise how big a contribution he's actually made, and we felt that it was important to put something up to say this is in memory of Les, and particularly it's among the daffodils that he has donated.
Cleveland had the idea to grow daffodils on his Saddle Hill property and sell them. Over 32 years he sold 800,000 daffodils, contributing more than $200,000 to local charities.
He was a successful businessman in his own right, but he also used his skills to develop charity work and found ways of exploiting resources that were perhaps underutilised.
Cleveland's charity work spans decades. He was also the driving force behind transporting citrus fruit to the south by train and finding a location for the Orokonui Eco Sanctuary. His love for the outdoors and charity work combined to generate thousands for the community.
All of these charities have benefited with that money, and we've only just taken what might be $200 a year in expenses for the petrol of moving the flowers, so it's 99% gone to all the charities.
Recipients of his life's work include the Yellow-Eyed Penguin Trust and the Blind Foundation, and his legacy remains among his favourite flowers. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
The local Coast Guard is urging people to prepare for a safe summer. Authorities are pushing the welfare message for Safer Boating Week as part of a nationwide campaign, and there's one group that's most at risk.
Preparing for the sea. The head of the local Coast Guard is making sure he's doing all the necessary checks before taking to the water, starting with the condition of the vessel.
Well, we've got the onset of summer coming along, so now's the time to make sure that your boat's ready and fit for purpose for the summer activities. You know, whether you're going into the lakes or out the open sea, it's important now that you do the checks.
Maritime New Zealand's current awareness campaign is pushing for boaties to make sure they're properly equipped. It's an urgent safety message after 27 people died in boating accidents throughout the country last year. Coast Guard staff say those type of accidents can be prevented by taking the right precautions.
Well, we've got a horrific, statistics about drownings in New Zealand, and a lot of them associated with boating. So people need to be aware of what their responsibilities are and what can happen when you're in that marine environment.
The message is to be responsible when dealing with the water. That means checking the forecast and tides beforehand and having a reliable means of communication for emergencies.
It's all in the preparation. You know, make sure as I said earlier, your boat is fit for purpose and you've got that right equipment. So in addition to what we've just talked about, you know, you have flares, life jackets that must fit the people.
90% of New Zealand's deaths at sea are men, but Callis says there's no such thing as being too much of a man to wear a life jacket. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
Some notable works of art are back on public display in the Dunedin Hospital foyer. They've been behind closed doors for the last 6 months while an art committee has been fighting a suggested alternative, and now a compromise has been reached.
Dusting off the cobwebs. After months in storage, 5 artworks by Ralph Hotary and Eileen Mayo are being put back up in the Dunedin Public Hospital. They were taken down as debate raged over the introduction of a university-funded information screen. It was opposed by an art committee, but thanks to a contrasting lick of paint, a happy medium has been reached.
I have grown to like the television and informing us of the temperature and the time of day. So with a little paintwork behind the television screen, it seems to have worked well. So it's taken a while, but it's been successful.
Those involved in getting the art back on the wall say it's a relief to see it on display again. It's been heralded as a win, not just for committee members, but everyone who visits and works in the hospital.
It has a great value in regard to the benefits for the patients, of course, the staff as well. And they like to be very vocal about what they like and what they don't like, and would you mind taking it down? I don't find that the patients do say that because they're hopefully off home the next day. But the benefits are immense, really.
The works are valued every 2 years, but their current worth is being kept under wraps. It's a substantial amount for the trust that owns them, but their value is more than just financial.
What a good idea that was, an investment for one's benefit in the health. It's not just medicine, it's the visual impact that art does for people.
The newly reinstated works are also benefiting from the recent replacement of the lobby roof as well as new lighting. It's set to shine a spotlight on the hospital's art collection for years to come. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
And just ahead on Southern Newsweek, a local organisation heralding from Cherry Farm Hospital celebrates 30 years, and we meet the filmmaker whose documentary focuses on the unique story of a Kiwi. Welcome back. The 30-year history of a local organisation is being celebrated with a book launch and an art exhibition. Art Centre began at Cherry Farm Hospital and has been helping mental health clients for the past 3 decades. But the flow of creativity is far from over.
Reading up on some local history, the first 30 years of Art Centre has been captured in a book. It details the centre's development as a shared studio, offering a creative outlet for people in the mental health system.
It began at Cherry Farm Psychiatric Hospital when it was, of course, really winding down, but in full bloom in some ways.
The book's been years in the making, starting as an idea at the 25th Art Centre anniversary. Now the book's launch coincides with the centre's yearly art exhibition. Trust members are hoping it reveals to residents some long-forgotten history, as well as Art Centre's relevance.
I would hope that they would see how worthwhile that Art Centre is for the people who come there to do their art for art's sake.
The organisation's recently won a national award. It's considered to be one of the country's oldest and most established creative spaces. But it's in a precarious position.
Any NGO that is funded through health is at risk, and we know that. So what we have to do is try and show to the world and show to our funders that this is truly worth funding.
Thompson worked at Cherry Farm and she's proud of how Art Centre has helped hundreds of people over the years. She's enjoying being able to involve the wider community in its work.
Having the book launch in amongst this exhibition makes it even more special, because if this creativity wasn't here, there's no story to tell, there's no book to write.
The exhibition's running for another week, and already Art Centre Trust members, staff and clients are looking forward to the next 30 years of creative expression. Rosie Mannins, 39, Dunedin News.
About 1,000 people have been through the Central Police Station over the weekend. They got a glimpse of the cells and experienced the Armed Offenders Squad, but it wasn't for the usual reasons.
Going behind traditionally closed doors, the city's Central Police Station has been opened up to the public for 1 day only. A guided tour of the cells proved to be a major drawcard with about 1,000 people attending. But police are aiming to do more than just satisfy curiosity.
The open day is really to demystify what the police do and how they operate and where they operate for members of the public. There's a huge amount of interest out there to know what we do, what we really do.
Staff from Red Cross, St John and Search and Rescue were also on hand, adding to the public's knowledge of local emergency services. They're wanting to clarify the roles of each organisation and how they work together. But for some, the message is simple.
Well, the police and all that, they help people and stop the offenders from getting other people again.
Another aim of the open day is recruiting future police officers and showing young residents what the job entails. Police are seeing benefits in talking with the public about their role in the community.
If they know that we're approachable and friendly, I think that's going to be of benefit to everyone. There's two things we want to do here in Dunedin. We want people to be safe and we want them to feel safe as well. The two things going hand in hand, that's really important.
The interest in this year's open day far exceeded expectations. Police dogs and patrol cars captured the attention of adults and children alike, but some were more intrigued by other displays.
The Armed Defenders Squad, because they have lots of cool stuff.
Police are hoping the station open day helps to clear up some misconceptions about the force. They say the job isn't just about locking up baddies, but also keeping the general public safe. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
A local documentary is showcasing the unique story of a Kiwi that's undergone 2 rounds of surgery. The film is among work being produced by science communication students at the University of Otago, but it's a foreigner who's chosen to focus on the distinctly native subject.
Meet Nayo, the Kiwi. She's starring in a locally made documentary put together by science communication student Kimberly Frost. The Oregon filmmaker is wanting to support efforts to boost the native Kiwi population.
And then this story just kind of fell in my lap, and I was just in awe of her, and she's adorable and feisty and very unique. Has a lot of personality.
Nayo hatched with a crooked beak and was flown to Massey University for surgery before being returned to the Kiwi Birdlife Park in Queenstown.
Kiwi have very sensitive beaks. They're very reliant on them. So to do this, there's a huge risk, and her particular situation is unique because her beak was bent in 2 different directions. So it actually took 2 surgeries to fix it.
Much of the filming was done at the Kiwi Park in Queenstown, and it wasn't easy.
Nocturnal birds aren't the easiest to work with. They don't really like coming into the light, which is important for filming. And so a lot of it is shot in night vision because we just had no other way to show the quirky nature of these animals.
The documentary's being shown this weekend as part of a science and natural history film premiere. It's one of 5 offerings to the public from the university's Centre for Science Communication. Rosie Mannins, 39, Dunedin News.
And finally, local engineering students have been testing the torque of their homemade engines. They've been racing grass carts in a South Island challenge, and with the finish line behind them, they've got other goals in sight.
Clocking up some speed. Grass cart races from around the South Island have been tearing up a temporary track at King's High School. This challenge is held every year for students of secondary schools, polytechnics and vocational courses.
There's quite a bit of work, planning, organising, buying components, buying material, pricing material, PowerPoint presentations, all that kind of stuff. So it's quite a lot involved.
Carts are made by teams of students throughout the year as they're covering the basics of engineering and mechanics in class. This racing challenge is the fun part of what's seen as a valuable education, resulting in unit standards.
So with local education, with high schools and polytechnics and the like, we try and make sure that all the skills they pick up on building a grass cart helps them move into the engineering and automotive trade sectors.
The challenge has been running for about 8 years and has been held locally a couple of times before. It involves a slalom, a sprint and a relay race.
It's a bit difficult because it's rained overnight, it's nice and slippery, so you really got to take care on the corners, try not to slip out.
Ultimately, the event is about having fun, but there's also a lot of thought that goes into the subtleties of driving carts as opposed to cars.
Oh, it's a bit different, it's just a lot more responsive, you slide out a lot quicker, go around corners a bit easier.
Students are now preparing for their final tests with the goal of getting work in the automotive and engineering sectors. Rosie Mannins, 39, Dunedin News.
And that's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Please do visit our website, dunedintv.co.nz, where you can download Southern Newsweek and watch individual clips of 39 Dunedin News or webcast the show. I'm Holly Buchanan. Thanks for watching.
supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.